all of this has been like, we've had this conversation over and over and over about who this team is. And then they're exactly the same team, right? They
Yeah.
become the team that they've talked about, that we've talked about all off season. And everyone's like, I don't like the way that looks. I don't like the way you play football. Wear people down, win the game. That is what they are doing. I don't understand this sense of disbelief that Penn State doesn't have some dynamic, high-flying offense. Like, it's unfathomable to me that we have to continue to have this conversation.
I want to jump in here, Nate, because I do believe that this part of the non-conference season, they have been trying to incorporate more of that explosive element through the passing game. So first off, we talk about lack of rhythm. So let me just go through some of the third downs that they faced in the game against Villanova and what led to the third down. False start. This is the first third down of the game where 3rd and 10. Blown up screen pass to Katron Allen that did not work. False start on first down. Then a shot play on 1st and 15 where they threw downfield to Devontae Ross. Later on in the game, false start by Venga Ioane. 1st and 15 shot play. 3rd and 6, he throws an out route to Traber Pena. So James Franklin is saying third down is not working for us. Penn State is not a team that has historically put themselves in 3rd and long because they're throwing shot plays down the field at early down and distances. So I do think that there is an element of, in the first 3 games, especially against FIU and last week against Villanova, they were trying to incorporate more deep passes for a couple of reasons. So what I was working shopping here in this morning. Last year, Penn State's deep passing game primarily revolved around when they saw particular looks, they would put Amari Evans in the slot, they would run him on a post route for a touchdown. It was you could count on it like clockwork. Once a game, once a quarter, however often it was. One thing they have struggled with is when you present that bend but don't break shell of 3 people over the top and then 5 people underneath, and you take away the tight ends, you add hat to the running game, all that stuff. Throwing people out of that last year did not work for Penn State. Now, this year, Drew Aller's deep passing attempts. Let me bring this up for you, and this is what I was excited about, what I found. Against cover 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7 of his 9 attempts have been against cover 3. Even if you go back and look at last year, where did he struggle of throwing down the field? Against that coverage family. So Penn State is trying, I think, to work on this for him and for the offense to allow Nick Singleton more yards to run and trying to take advantage of what the defense is giving them. And it has been a struggle. And that has been an area where if you want to say that Drew Aller and this offense are not finding rhythm, they're putting themselves in the position to do a thing that they know they weren't good at last year and trying to get good at it in this non-conference season. Those are the direct numbers. Like I'm not guessing on that. That is the output that I've seen on film verified by the tape. And the numbers aren't good. They've completed 1 pass on deep plays, and it was against cover 2 in the first game. So there is a struggle here, and I apologize. No, they've completed 2. One of them was to Devontae Ross. So, like the percentages here aren't great when you're looking at what they're trying to work on. And going back to the question of are they facing gimmicky offenses? These defenses are running the same thing. They're playing cover 3, and Penn State's trying to work on that element of the game because they will see that later in the year. Now, here's a question: does Oregon run cover 3? No. Oregon thinks they're going to stop Penn State's running game with 4 defenders in the line of scrimmage. So will they see a more diverse and robust coverage family in the future? They absolutely will. So a lot of this is case-by-case scenario, and there is a formula for these non-conference teams of how they want to defend Penn State. Make them beat their head against a wall, and then keep everything in front of you and make Drew Aller throw the throws he doesn't necessarily like. Those vertical leads down the field where he doesn't have he's not able to throw the ball away from the corner or the safety. He has to throw it vertically, and there has to be a trust with the receiver that they're going to catch the ball if it's a contested catch situation, and Penn State is working through that. Now, that is not me defending Drew Aller. I am pointing to you his biggest weakness as a deep ball thrower. And that's something that may come up later, but if you're saying what's wrong with Penn State's rhythm, what's wrong with Penn State's passing attack, this is what they're working on. That is what they're working on. And to me, like, I want to give them credit for trying that. Now, the outcome is, that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out the rest of the year. But it is this concept of, are they working on stuff? What are they working on? And how do they go about making themselves a more complete team? And for anyone that wants to say Drew Aller, a senior quarterback, should be better at this, I kind of agree. Like, this is a thing that I think is a fair thing to say about where Drew Aller is as a senior. So that was my theory. That was my thought. I want to also address, if you don't mind, I'm going to go on another one of T. Frank's tangents. The point about the offense fitting Aller. We've had this conversation since Andy Kotelnicki was hired. I asked, there's a 10% part of this offense that relies upon read option and the stress it puts on the defense to create explosive plays in that gray area between passing and the run game. And last year, they bridged that gap with Tyler Warren and with Bo Prabula. Now, in the non-conference, they haven't bridged that gap. They just haven't. They've elected not to do it in any way, shape, or form. Some of the things you're seeing are performative option plays. Are they performative against Iowa or Oregon or Northwestern? Don't know yet. But I spent all offseason here Andy Kotelnicki oogling Drew Aller's physique. And you're telling me that was for no reason whatsoever? We're looking at these things and trying to build a consensus of what is going on in the offense. And I just think that for the first time ever, I do believe there are certain things they're not using. Fitz, you've talked about this, of they don't want him getting hit for no reason. Most of the times he's been hit, he's been scrambling. They have not had him run the football this year. So I guess I don't know how to have the conversation other than, like, we need more information. And there is always the truth of, yeah, there are parts that don't fit Drew Aller, but every offense has sections of the playbook it can lean on and go away from. And I think that right now they are going away from the option. But we don't know that they're going to go away from the option completely and that Aller's never going to run it. So those are my thoughts. No injuries, Fitz. That's a big deal, right?
It is. Number one, oogling
respond to anything you want, by the way. I just didn't know how to end that.
No, I mean, I think it's pretty clear looking at the first three games. Drew ran, I don't have the numbers in front of me, 6 times against Nevada. He took some shots. 2 days later, James Franklin said he shouldn't be taking those shots. And then guess what? He didn't run at all, design runs or anything. He took 2 sacks against FIU. Those are classified as run attempts. And then he had, I think, 2 scrambles and a self pass. And then he took some hits against Villanova over the weekend. So I think it was pretty clear. Penn State pulled that one back. Like, said, hey, we don't need you to do this. We'll figure this out during the bye week. We'll figure this out when Oregon gets here. I don't know that it's, the absolute best, because those hits, as gruesome as they look sometime, get you into a flow, get you into a feel. And, if you go a couple of weeks without one, which he really hasn't, but if you go a couple of weeks without one, you sort of get distant from that, if you will. So I think that the running game does come back a little bit. I'm not saying Drew's going to run the ball 10 times, but he's going to have the option to do so. And it's going to freeze somebody for a split second and makes a difference. I mean, let's look at this offense, the fundamental difference that Drew running the ball could make, and like not being Bo, like not being like, just get that out now. Going back to the original question about is he a better fit? Yeah, Bo's a better fit for this offense. We said that before the 2024 season. Like it's clear what Andy Kotelnicki has done in his past relies on an athletic quarterback. And Drew has gotten, I don't want to say gotten more athletic, but he's gotten to be more of a runner in the last year and a half. And then they went away from it because they didn't want their quarterback hurt. I think that makes sense. But you get him running, you get Drew, or you get Nick Singleton in the passing game, it opens up a little bit. Now, that's not going to cure everything that has been an issue so far, as you mentioned. Like, there's been it's just been, you kind of expect it to be Forrest Gump when he runs out of the braces, and just takes off. That's not what's happening here. And I think that's area for concern, is that you snapped your fingers. Okay, well, now you're punting against Villanova. Like that's not what you want. You just want to be able to take it and do what the fans want. And that's just run over the defense and then, average 9 yards a carry or whatever. So I think that is the holdup that I've got, is that they haven't been able to flip the switch and just kind of go into that. Now, we saw at halftime of the FIU game, they did that a little bit, and they went from running a lot of the outside zone, running laterally, basically having a lateral running game, to a more vertical running game. And it was successful, and they did some really nice things there. So I just think that there's so much out there, and it's so, I've had this sort of tug of war over the last couple of weeks, is like, no, they're not hiding anything special from Oregon. Oregon knows that Drew can run a little bit. He's not going to kill you, but he can pick up first downs, which is exactly what you need. You know that Nick Singleton is a pretty good receiver when it comes to coming out of the backfield. So yes, they're shelving that. It's not hiding it, it's shelving that. And then they're running a ton of different looks. Sequencing seems to be off. Spacing seems to be off. You mentioned earlier about finding the spot in the zone. I think Luke Reynolds kind of settled into that and kind of learned it on the fly, because there's only so much you can do in practice. When you do it against live bullets, even against a team like Villanova, you find the spaces on the field. And I think he found his way and felt his way into getting that. So I think that's the sort of evolution that you're looking for this offense, is to how to take the things that they've put on the shelf. Again, not hiding anything from Oregon. Oregon knows what Penn State's going to do. Like they have a really good idea of what Penn State's going to do.
Have you heard of Wave Fruit Farm? It's this great farm market bakery and cafe. You can shop with them either at their farm in Port Matilda or downtown State College.
No way.
Yes, Wave Fruit Farm. They have all sorts of seasonal fruits and veggies.
Way cool.
No, Wave Fruit Farm. But anyway, you should visit their bakery and cafe. They serve amazing food all day.
Way.
Fruit Farm.
Putting it back all together. And I thought we'd see a little bit more of that against Villanova, just putting it all back together so that when you hit that ramp, you're ready to fly. You're ready to go. I still have concerns about them being ready to go. It comes down to things like that. And also comes down to the sequencing of Drew. I mean, Drew looked pretty darn good to start the game. Started 5 of 6 here. Then he gets streaky. There was a time when he was 1 of 7. And then he came back and hit 4 straight. And then he threw the pick. And then after the pick, he hit 4 or 5. Like, he is so streaky. And that is what is just shooting them in the foot, is when it's bad, it's quite off. And it usually is followed by another bad pass. So when he's doing the 2-minute drill, and we talked to this about after the game, when he's doing the 2-minute drill, he's a different quarterback. And he's a wonderful.
Can I address that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think that there's, first off, what you said there about being streaky, I think absolutely is a narrative in a game of when the defense adjusts to what you're doing, and they can start to take away the passes that you were relying on and feasting on in that first 5 of 6. And then the ability to adapt and adjust back to the adjustment is also important. Now, to the conversation about the 2-minute drill and how he operates that. When you're running 2-minute drill, James Franklin has talked about this. He's looking for what from the defense? Andy Nittany, what do they want from the defense when they're running a 2-minute drill, no huddle, making everyone go fast?
To keep everybody on the field?
And yes, to keep everything the same and to get a basic call from the defense. So what happens in the 2-minute drill is Drew knows what to expect.
I can't believe I got that right. It's like a pop quiz I wasn't ready for. Go ahead.
So they're trying to get basic calls from the defense. When you are, even if you're running your drop 8 and they're flooding the boundary and taking away those comeback routes, Drew's throwing the same throw. He's throwing the deep out, he's throwing the speed out, and he's throwing the comeback against soft coverages. The cover 3, the quarters, he's throwing the safe passes to the sidelines. When you go fast and use tempo, they're not going to get in the perfect call to take away what they're expecting. You're going to get a slower reaction from that free extra player on the field. So when you run 2-minute drill, it's easier for the quarterback because the defense is easier. He knows how he can get back to those throws. And then in the second half, they adapt the plan and they go to play action to draw all those extra players into the line of scrimmage. So they are trying to do this, by the way, in the game. When they hit a play, then they go fast and they go tempo. That's what they're trying to do. Get a basic call and get a shot play or another passing play. Some of the problems there are structural in terms of when you do that, the other team knows you're going to do that, and they can have 2 calls ready too. So, like, Nate, I need to get you back in the conversation here. I just want you to...
I got so many questions. I have so many questions.
Respond.
You don't even have to ask me a question. I want to ask you a question. Hey,
Sure.
if you're a defensive coordinator of a team that knows it's going to lose, do you call it differently? Do you adjust to that? Do you try maybe to prevent yourself from being gouged and from being just like kind of repeatedly exposed on big plays?
Defensively, it's tough because those guys at that level are coaching a specific way because of the athletes that they have. Like you look at Villanova, Villanova had a nose tackle that looked like a, I don't want to say looked like a Big Ten nose tackle, but he looked like he had the size to play in the Big Ten. I don't know that he was great, but like he looked like he had that. They're playing I think Franklin said it last week, they're playing a 3-3 stack, which they did a lot of different things, but they're playing a 3-3 stack.
They did more 4 down than anybody anticipated at Penn State.
Yes.
Correct. But you're overcompensating for the athletes that you have. Now, offensively, I think that's a really good point. Like, I think that offensive coordinators, especially when you saw Nevada running the play clock down every play, Villanova did that quite a bit as well.
Yep.
You're shortening the game because you know you're going to lose. And I hate saying stuff like that, but yes, I think that's.
But it's
more
coordinated.
The only way to win
together.
Right.
It's a team. It's a strategy.
Yes.
Right.
What Nate is saying is we're going to bend but don't break and hope we force field goals, and we're going to bleed the clock. So if we win, it's going to be 27-20 or 23-20, and we're not going to try some of the things we might do to win the game. We're actively playing defense, so hopefully Penn State makes enough mistakes we win. Okay. Is I think what you're characterizing.
Okay. Moving on. I got more questions.
Pop quiz. Are you moving on from this? Because I got a point on top of that. No, I got a point on top of that.
No.
Yes.
What happens? Yes. What is Penn State? What is Penn State? Define the noun for Penn State or adjective if Drew Aller gets hurt in either of the first 3 games.
We can't say that.
Yes, I can. The word is cooked.
Oh.
Cooked. Done. Over. Right? Like, what are we talking about? Go ahead. Make your point.
I think that you look at Villanova, you look at these teams, and you look all over college football. You've got games where coaches are doing that, coaching to the result, really. And I think that when you take a look at big games, coaches all over the country, not just at Penn State, they clam up. They want to do less, which I think doing less for Penn State's offense could be really, really good for them.
Yeah, I think
but they want to do less. Texas, Ohio State just played a 14-7 game a couple weeks ago. Notre Dame and Texas A&M played a different kind of that game. Both defenses, I have questions. That's another story. But you're looking at big games, coached not to make mistakes. And again, that's not just a James Franklin thing. That's not a Penn State thing. You're looking at that. Now, I think one of the teams that has been better at that than most is Oregon, which Oregon will say, okay, we're just going to go out here and score. Like, we're going to go out here and do this kind of thing and do our stuff and run our stuff over and over again. And they've been pretty good at it, which is kind of concerning for me in a couple of weeks. But I think that everything is going to tighten up. Rotations, sequencing, spacing a little bit as well. Like, I think that there's a lot that goes into that.
James Franklin has said twice now, we're making things harder on ourselves than we need to. Is that part of what you think he's talking about? Because I haven't really been able to pin down exactly what he means when he says we're making things harder on ourselves than we need to, either on an execution level, on a plan for the game level. Like, I guess, where are you seeing that? Because I feel like that's what you were just saying there in terms of they won't make it as hard on themselves against Oregon because they're going to be doing things more tailored down into the big game look.
Yeah. Shrink the playbook. I mean, they do too much already. Like, even in games that are not against scrimmage type opponents that we've seen in the first couple of weeks, they do too much. And I think, yes, sir, you in the blue.
Are they actually doing too much, or are they putting a ton of window dressing on the same stuff?
It's the same stuff. It's the same thing, right? Doing too much, adding, you run the same plays out.
It's an illusion. It's the same magic trick. the magic trick is the same. At the end of the day, they're still running the same things.
You want
Like,
more
so,
pre-snap
yeah,
motion, is what you're saying.
Yes, I'm just saying, like, they do a lot of stuff
Formation.
to give different looks to defenses to distract them, right? That's Andy Kotelnicki's thing. That's what he does. But I don't think at the end of the day, Penn State's offensive players in execution are being asked to do
But okay,
500 million different things.
So I believe Fitz, if I may. 6 offensive lineman sets, followed by 3 tight end sets, followed by running a screen into the boundary with Venga Ioane and Drew Shelton out there. Even if these are the same plays, like putting players in positions they're unfamiliar with or uncomfortable with is a lot of doing too much. Now, in this past game, they did not do that, but in the totality of Andy Kotelnicki's offense, I would say that like there is a balancing act between the two things, what we're just describing. Because Nate, you're absolutely 100% right about like it's the same passing plays run from different formations with different players. And Fitz, like I have like it's dizzying sometimes to find out like who's lining up where and why. What is the point of this?